He earned his BA in International Affairs from the Thammasat University, an MA in International Relations from Chulalongkorn University, and a PhD in Japanese and Southeast Asian Studies from the University of Leeds, United Kingdom. His research focuses on the geopolitics of East Asia, with a particular emphasis on the Mekong sub-region, including economic corridors and Southeast Asian regionalism. Narut teaches courses such as Mekong sub-region studies, international relations theory, comparative regionalism, politics and government of Japan, security studies, East Asian studies, and cities in global politics. He is now also conducting research on Korea's foreign policy and how to teach Korean foreign policy to Thai students. So, allow me to introduce, therefore, Narut. You may have the floor. Yes, kindly unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone from around the world. I'm Narut from Chiang Mai University. It's 6:48 p.m. here in Thailand, and I'm very happy that everyone um, be here listening to what we are going to talk today. As a member and who has been working and has a privilege to work with Fung Ho and History NGOs for quite some time. When this year forum pop up and I have to come up with the ideas of what I'm going to talk this year, I thought about the project that I'm writing. I'm writing books now, and I think one of the books that I'm writing on connectivity. So I try to understand how connectivity is shaping and transforming the world by looking into economic corridors in Southeast Asia in particular. As as I mentioned earlier, that I teach international relations and Greater Mekong sub-region or mainland Southeast Asia. At first, I'm try to understand how connectivity and economic corridors or land transportation in Southeast Asia has transformed the sub-region from different perspectives, from urbanization, urban development, and how it impacts socio-cultural aspect, sort of that things. So the book that I'm writing now is about how to compare all the case studies in the world, be from South Asia, Africa, Latin America, or even from Central Asia and European countries. So I try to compare how the phenomenon, this connectivity that we call it, from around the world has changed and have shaped the urbanization system and the world in this one. So when the ideas of this Thursday Global Forum came in, I thought maybe why not? I look into these economic corridors and connectivity from peace perspective. Because generally when we talk about economic corridor or connectivity, is tend to be more on about economic integration or is about logistic of what is that called supply chain things. But instead, we can look from this phenomenon from international relations perspective and from peace. How could this phenomenon create peace and how it brings peace in this world to this world? And at another dimension, what is the constraint or the obstacles of this economic corridor? So that's something that I'm going to talk about today. So first, this is the very initial idea of books that I'm writing on. So if you have any ideas, questions, comments, or recommendation, please feel free to inform me. Please do not hesitate to tell me. And I'm really happy that I have people from around the world here, and you might reflect on something. What should I look into, maybe from case studies, approach, or anything from your point of view? And I'm very happy to learn from everyone. And I want to make it more a discussion, not just only my talk in this presentation. So allow me to share my presentation. So it's quite hard for us to start to kick off with. At first, I'm not sure whether should I use the word connectivity or should I use the word economic corridors. And at the end, I think I prefer to use the word connectivity because it's a phenomenon. And at the same time, it's a project in the world that try to make connectivity throughout the world. And as I mentioned previously, that I try to understand how connectivity create peace or how could it bring peace or integration or harmony to the world. So this is something that I'm going to talk about, and I would like to listen to your ideas as well. So generally, when we talk about connectivity, it's a very broad and vague and debatable concept throughout the world. When we look into this concept from international organizations or from scholars from around the world, they use the word connectivity from different perspectives. Recently in Southeast Asia, maybe everywhere in the world, connectivity seems to relate to projects, particularly hard infrastructure development projects. It signifies of physical connectivity where we have land connectivity, air, sea, or internet, or even energy connectivity, telecommunication infrastructure. So the first idea and the most understandable concept of connectivity generally, it comes with hard infrastructure development. So this is the first thing. The second ideas of connectivity, when we talk about it, it would be soft infrastructure connectivity, or some people would call it institutional connectivity. It has something to do with regulations, law, even ideas. How these ideas, norms, institutional law, regulations create or harmonized amongst its member states. So this is a very basic concept of connectivity. It's about the project itself. And at the same time, there is another dimension of connectivity when people use it unconsciously. That when we talk about connectivity, is a phenomenon where we have the interconnectedness or linkages between two domains either in international structures or domestically, internationally. So when we talk about connectivity, I would say that sometimes when I use the word connectivity during my presentation, it might refer to project itself, or it might refer to phenomenon. So this is something we have to set standard. We are on the same page first. So for physical connectivity, I mentioned earlier, we talk about road and then water, river, sea, ocean, air, railways. I'm in another research project with business school at Thammasat University. We are writing books on connectivity, physical connectivity. When we talk about physical connectivity, instead of thinking just only that we have the road that link physically together between Thailand and Laos, India and Pakistan, or France and Germany, those physical link that we can see. Instead, maybe we can look at that physical linkages can be air transportation that we can fly from Japan to South Korea that could considered as physical connectivity as well. However, but road corridor or economic road, there are many types of road or land transport that we should consider. For road, one of the important issues for road or physical connectivity nowadays is corridors. There are many dimension or many definition or explanations of what corridor is or are. Some people would use the word transport corridor, economic corridor, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the basic assumption of corridor is a long connection between cities and cities, province to province, country to countries. So this corridor create economic activities all along the way. And economic corridor tends to have connotation or has embedded meaning of connectivity inside it. So when we say that people try to make connectivity or the country try to make connectivity, Why should we make connectivity? So for geopolitical reasons, it's about proximity. These geopolitical reasons, what I'm saying is a traditional and non-traditional definition of geopolitics. The very basic or conventional geopolitical dimension is, the geographical things, because you are located next to each other, the proximity, your land links together, or maybe you are linked by the sea or the ocean. So the proximity, you share border. So it would be great if you could have uh, border trade or transboundary trade, trans transboundary trade. That would be great that you have connectivity. And at the same time, from a broader definition of geopolitical reasons, we can think of geopolitical reasons from superpowers or geopolitical rivalry between states. A broader definition of geopolitical reasons is when we look into the international order where country and country compete each other and try to find a higher political and economic status in the world. So with this one, when we look into geopolitical reasons, maybe we should make connectivity in order to increase our competitiveness or try to find a better position in the international order. For political and security reasons, I think for diplomatic and political reasons, yeah, I think those are a very basic assumption because you are next each other and you want to make connectivity or connection with other country. Diplomatic relations would be great. And why should we connect? Because sometimes we have to manage something. I think we have seen all over the world that we have cross-border, that people cross-border to each other. We have cross-border mobility. So before the nation state, we have nation state. People cross border from on a daily basis. Why not? Why don't we create a manageable system or management that could really control the border and physically manage it? So this would be another reason that we could come up with the idea of management at the border. And another reasons would be for economic and business reasons, which are, I think, the most important reasons for for connectivity. Economic integration, after the increase of productivity and competitiveness, economic interdependence, economic integration between countries like Thailand, Cambodia, Japan, South Korea, between the southern part of China with mainland Southeast Asia, or from India to Bhutan, or India to Sri Lanka, or from other area around the world because of the economic interdependence. Why not? Why, in order to increase trade volume and investment, maybe economic integration through connectivity would be great. Another idea, creating roads, transport, it would help create and increase the level and the number and the volume of trade relations. And at the same time, with this creation of physical connectivity, we do anticipate that it will create more investment, it will attract FDI or foreign direct investment. It will support international production network, regional production network. I think this connectivity would help all the economic and business reasons. And for economic corridor or connectivity, it also helps socio-cultural reasons. Actually, when we look into other studies from sociology and anthropology and tourism studies and economic business department, they would say that this kind of people-to-people mobility or tourism, it actually creates and helps bridge and the understanding between people to people. You use this kind of people to people to build diplomacy, and it helps create understanding in the world. People to people would bring joy and bring more understanding, that we feel, oh, our neighbor is like this, so we understand them more. So that would be another kind that we create or we support soft soft power amongst us. However, that's a very, up until now, what I have mentioned is a very basic concept of connectivity. But connectivity itself is politicized because they are projects and they are phenomenon. The project itself is politicized by superpowers, by international organizations. So with this one, connectivity is anticipated to help create economic activity. It will create understanding between people and it will bring a better world because of interaction between people. And at the same time, it's politicized and it also it also triggered political issues at the border because of connectivity as well. And we will look into case studies around at the end of this presentation. So when we look into the world, there are many definition, there are many case studies that we could see. And if I'm missing something from your experience, do not hesitate to tell me. I know that I'm still cannot cover them all, and I'm still trying to look into many case studies around the world. So if you know somewhere more than this, please let me know. The first one is Belt and Road Initiative, and people from around the world has been crazy and has been trying to understand how the Belt and Road Initiative have changed the world. We said that there are physical connectivity between China and Pakistan, China, Myanmar, China or to Indochina, which is mainland Southeast Asia, to Central Asia, to Mongolia, Russia, and other places. So this is the very basic economic the corridors that we see. I think this one actually should be seen as the most important element of how physical connectivity shaped the world. And as BRI has started recently, not recently, like a decade ago, however, we still have to see a long trajectory of this corridor development, how it's going to shape urbanization, international production network, people-to-people connectivity. I think we have to observe this in a long period of time. This is going to be another case studies that I think we should keep our eye on. Another one is the Greater Mekong subregion, where I have studied this case study for 20 years already. And I think this helps us to understand the phenomenon and the project of economic corridor itself. And there are another case studies that I listed here in Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey. And from Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi. And from East Africa, that area, and Trans-European Transport Network in Europe, or TEN-T. Actually, I once did a research on TEN-T and how TEN-T adapted itself to respond to China's BRI, but we haven't seen because the TEN-T or the European TEN-T has different characteristic, is has their own uniqueness. It changed differently from other area around the world. So because they have international organizations, they have different economic interests. So that's something that quite different. So after listening to the definition and the anticipation of economic corridor, what I'm going to delve into and share my ideas and my case studies in this talk, I'm going to talk about the Greater Mekong subregion as the main case studies of this presentation. First of all, let's look into the basic information or data of this subregion. The economic corridor, the Greater Mekong subregion comprises Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. This is a small geographical area and a very small corner of the world, yet is very important in terms of geopolitics. We have seen that after the Second World War ended, and then we came up with the Cold War, and the Cold War ended in 1991. After 1991, up until now, the Asian Development Bank in Manila has created the Greater Mekong Sub-Region Economic Cooperation Program, or the GMS program. in 1992 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Greater Mekong Sub-Region Economic Cooperation Program in 1992, when they came up, because it was anticipated to be a regional mechanisms that would create regionalism and create market economy in this sub-region through economic integration and with the support of transport development in this sub-region. So it came up with the ideas of economic corridors. So up until now, from 1992 up until now, we have seen the incoming or the engagement of this sub-region with superpowers. It has been engaged with Japan, China, South Korea, Australia, the United States, and more. So the reasons that there are many superpowers interested in this sub-region, the reasons are different. Each country have their own different reasons to engage in this sub-region. However, what we have seen is this sub-region is under the eyes or is gain interest from superpowers and they try to support development in this sub-region. So they initiated many regional initiatives, such as Lanchang Mekong Corporation by the Chinese, Japan Mekong Corporation by Japan, Mekong Ganga Corporation with India, Mekong ROK with South Korea, and Mekong Australia Partnership with Australia. And amongst this area of cooperation, these regional initiative, they all focus on connectivity because they all see that in order to develop this sub-region and to integrate this sub-region into a broader or bigger economic collaboration, they have to establish or they have to construct corridors and transport system. So we create this transport system in the sub-region for quite some time. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the member of Economic Corridor of the Greater Mekong Sub-region, which was created in 1992, I mentioned earlier. Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and two southern provinces of China, which are Yunnan and Guangxi Zhuang. So after the GMS program came, they started with three economic corridors. The first one is the North-South Economic Corridor, which links between Yunnan to Thailand, and they anticipated to build to the southern part of Thailand, to Malaysia and Singapore. This is North-South Economic Corridor in blue line. The second one is the East-West Economic Corridor, which links between Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam. This one is in green line. And the third one is the Southern Economic Corridor, which is in the red line from the wide deep sea port in Myanmar to Thailand to Cambodia and to Vietnam. The most updated, no, the most advanced and progressed economic corridor would be the East-West Economic Corridor. It started in Myanmar and it comes to the border between Thailand and Laos and it changed and it shaped the urbanization, of the province at the border between Thailand and Myanmar, and it shaped how people cross border on a daily basis to work as a cross-border labor between Thailand and Myanmar. And after that, it crossed the border between Thailand to Laos and to Vietnam. Economic corridor shape things a lot. It helps people to have a better life because they can create and they can travel through things like in the red line from Southern Economic Corridor. We hope that this economic corridor would help people from Thailand to cross border to Cambodia on a daily basis to help them have a better access to market and people could maybe if they're ill they can cross the border between from Cambodia to Thailand to use our public services. Or from economic perspective, people can drive, I mean, physically drive from Yunnan to Laos to Myanmar and then to Thailand. So these economic corridor are anticipated to help increase economic activity. And from economic perspective, if you have economic corridor, it would bring prosperity to the sub-region and would, it create people access to public services. It helps people to access to education, better health, hospital, or something like that. And even if you are all along the road, maybe you can sell things to truck drivers, or and then you have a better life because of sellings or things like that. So economic corridor itself was actually, if we look from an economic perspective, it might help improve people living standard, right? So that's the very basic assumption of economic corridor. And from Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, we can see from this one that it will anticipate to help build and shape how people transport throughout the world, from China to the other part of the world. What I mentioned earlier is economic corridor in the Greater Mekong subregion, which is number 4. These maps on the screen are branches of BRI. So Belt and Road Initiative of China, which is a mega project that they try to build link physically between China and other part of the world, it comprises six main corridors. The first, the one that I mentioned is number 4, the China Indochina Peninsula Corridor, number 4. And another case study I'm going to touch upon is number 6, which is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And for BRI, instead, when they came to Southeast Asia or to mainland, to Greater Mekong sub-region, so they, instead of just only making physical connectivity, China also create all the supportive mechanisms of infrastructure development project, such as international airport, power plants, economic zones, university, hydropower station, high-speed railway, and urban railway, solar plants. So you can see that when you have the ideas of connectivity, it means that you are trying to create physical connectivity. And in order to do that, you also help bring um, another infrastructure development project in terms of not just only transport project, but telecommunication, energy development. So from a bird eye view, it would say that it might be good for receivers when they are in this part of economic corridor projects, because they are receiving something from the donor who are trying to support corridors. That's the Chinese case. What about the Japanese case? This is another case from Japan. Japan tried to create ASEAN connectivity, and Japan tried to focus on East-West Economic Corridor and Southern Economic Corridor. From the bird eye view, we would say that, hey, look at this. Japan also give us something to help build economic corridors. It helps, you can see from the green box here, the bridge, the central highway, the terminal. And actually, when we look into a detail, we will see that there are also dams, power plants, international airports, and things like that. So from receivers or from developing or underdeveloped country in Southeast Asia, we would think that, okay, this is good. We are Southeast Asian countries and we want to receive we are going to receive something from the donors or from China and from Japan. So with this one, we would say that, hey, Japan and China, they are helping us, and the world is going to better, and this sub-region is going to improve because of these donors as well. So actually, it's a mutual benefit, and it will going to make a world a better place. Yeah, maybe. And this is a more detailed of the projects that Japan has been giving to us. As you can see, it's all about hydropower plants, airport terminal, port, tunnel or bridges or power plants, and Sihanouk wheel port, special economic zones, transport. So these are infrastructure development under the ideas of connectivity. Another case study is from South Asia, where we do have China-Pakistan economic corridors, where they try to link the landlocked area in China and they try to seek a way to do deep sea port. So they build economic corridor from a landlocked province in China to uh, Gawada deep sea port in Pakistan. So this one also it was anticipated to be another economic corridor that would create and improve people living standard in Pakistan. And Pakistan hopes that it's going to help improve our living standard and it's going to shape geopolitical area in this sub-region. So this is the case of South Asia. So what we learn from this, economic corridors relates to connectivity, and connectivity relates to mobility, the mobility of goods, services, and people. However, economic corridor itself, we can see it from different dimensions, from political perspective, socio-cultural perspective, or economic perspective. The benefit, the benefit itself is very easy to be seen. Everyone would talk about it. The political reasons is about regionalization. It creates regionness. People would say that, hey, if you are traveling within your sub-region because of the interaction and easy to cross border, it might create the ideas of regionness. We feel that we are people from the same identity, blah, blah, blah. Theoretically, they would say this. And they would say that when we have more regionness, it will bring a better understanding of the region. And then when we have a better understanding of the region, it might create a better amicable political sentiment or feeling amongst us in the sub-region. And that one, it will create international cooperation. And from economic perspective, it would say that economic integration, regionalization, integration, it might help create economic and regional integration because of mobility. And these two dimensions from politics and economics is a liberal perspective. What about socio-cultural perspective? Yes, we saw that. We would say that integration, mobility, connectivity, create travel. It would increase border trade, cross-border trade. And at the same time, it also emphasize identity because it create identity reflection. You know who you are and who is or who are not on your side, right? It create us and them, right? And at the same time, it creates friendship. We would say that, okay, building this connectivity, people could cross the border, and then we have a better understanding, we have better friendship. There are some studies around sorry, there are some studies 4 or 5 years ago saying that once we have economic corridors, it creates mobility between people. They said that once we have economic corridor, it helps people to travel within the sub-region. For example, in Southeast Asia, once we have those economic corridor, people could use public bus from Thailand to Laos and then to Cambodia and to Vietnam. And we saw some increasing numbers of tourists in that region after economic corridor were constructed. So that might be an anticipation from the government, and we hope that it would help create the sense of us and the regionness in the sub-region. However, there are some challenges that we have to take into account. There's many ideas and some people would say that, hey, we hope that this kind of physical connectivity would help create regionness or it create economic activities. However, there might be some challenges. First, what about the sovereignty? In case of China-Pakistan economic corridor, they were afraid that maybe this kind of economic corridor, when they pass through some certain area in Pakistan, where they do have some minorities who they are separatists and they are fighting for their own land. This kind of economic corridor might trigger those movement in the in the area. So this economic corridor, instead of just only making or integrating the country, instead maybe they are breaking up. So instead of creating unity or harmony, maybe they create conflicts more. Border management. Look at Thailand, between Thailand and Cambodia now. We are having problems, right? Thailand and Cambodia, we are fighting on the demarcation and the territory. We have territorial dispute, and the Cambodian health government has brought these issues to the International Court of Justice already. So with this one, people would say that okay, having connectivity would create a better understanding, friendship. Yes, but at the same time, it creates self-reflection, and it also emphasizes nationalism. And it maybe you have to create or have to manage border management, because connectivity is not going to lead us to that level of understanding. Maybe it will create the problems at the border. Political instability is something, or the challenges that we have to look into. We said that integration or economic corridor might bring harmony to the region or to the certain area. However, every country that economic corridor or road connectivity pass through, they might not be a fully developed or mature democracy country. Sometimes they are developing the political system. So there are different level of stability in each country. So with that one, sometimes this is going to be the challenge of economic corridors or connectivity and vice versa. And at the same time, global economic dynamic is another challenges that is going to bar or constrain the collaboration between countries in economic corridors development or connectivity development, because your lack of money, budget, and what if your supporter or financiers have political or geopolitical conflicts in another area, it might delay the economic corridor connectivity development. The maintenance. Many countries have the ideas, the investors, but they do not have enough money to maintain the physical roads things. Another idea is that we have to take into account how this connectivity going to have to confront, and at the same time it need some this basic foundation understanding. This challenge is historical textbook. We have seen in many countries, and from your experience, I know that everyone come from different countries, and your country would have different or some case studies that your textbooks when you were young, your university or your high school or maybe your school would teach you a nationalistic history. They might create enemy in those textbooks. And when you were young, you would believe that. And this kind of historical textbook emphasize or empowered the nationalistic sentiment or feelings, and this will create sentiment or feelings when the government say that they want to build this kind of corridors or connectivity. For example, we said that okay, instead of just only focusing on road connectivity between Thailand and our neighboring countries, maybe we can make connectivity with them by helping them build a hospital, because the hospital on that side might help people on that side develop their health system. And once at the border, if they have hospital, those people at the other side of the country wouldn't have to cross the border to my side, right? This is another kind of connectivity. But then people on your side would say that, hey, our country still confronting some challenges. Why do we have to give our money to help build hospital to the other side of the country, right? So mm, because we don't like them, because of the historical textbook, because we believe that they are our enemy, because we believe that they are alien in our society, or something like that. So this kind of sentiment that you have against other people in your society, something that challenge this kind of development. So it's another ideas of perception. So what we can learn from these cases, from these case studies, maybe from your experience, maybe if you know from another ideas or from your experience, if you heard of some case studies from South Asia, Africa, Europe, Latin America, any particular case studies, theories, feedbacks, or ideas, I'm very happy to listen to all of you because I'm developing these ideas on this book, and I think I want to listen to everyone. That's from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for creating an interesting topic for discussion regarding connectivity and the issue of peace. No? So we'd like to get the ball rolling. Would anybody want to raise questions or comment on presentation by Narut? Just kindly unmute. Anybody?
I can't find my little hand.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm
Sorry.
desperately searching for it, but I
Yes,
can't
go
find
ahead.
it. Okay, so yeah, so a couple of comments and a few questions. So, thank you very much. Very interesting, and I think also very relevant to Korea as well. When you mentioned the Mekong and the sub-region and the various east-west corridors, that seems to be an aspect of competition often between Japanese ODA and Korean ODA in the region. There's a lot of Korean interest in countries in Cambodia and Laos. And I think my first comment or maybe question is Japan and Korea have very different versions and visions of how they see sub-regions and the wider Indo-Pacific. Japan, in my views, tends to see Indo-Pacific as a connection of different sub-regions and connecting east to west and north and south. Whereas Korea tends to see the Indo-Pacific in very American terms, that the Indo-Pacific is a block of democratic nations, and perhaps not so much seen as a connection between sub-regions. So I'd be interested in your views about whether that's relevant, particularly to Southeast Asia and the greater Mekong sub-region you mentioned. Secondly, you actually mentioned this towards the end of your presentation regarding the question of sovereignty and territory. I'm just wondering the tension here, particularly for ASEAN countries, which are very defensive for historical reasons in terms of their national sovereignty and territory, how this fits into the ASEAN vision of regional connectivity. Because I think the big thing with ASEAN is they do not want to go down the European Union route. That's very, very clear. Who defines where that balance is between integration, connectivity, and national sovereignty? Perhaps a more skeptical question regarding connectivity. You mentioned China and the Belt and Road, and you mentioned the Gwadar and Pakistan, and some very interesting comments made about the dangers of connectivity leading to maybe demands for autonomy or succession within countries and particular groups. That's a quite interesting spatial and territorial issue. But I think there's also a lot of neo-colonial aspirations here as well, that connectivity is basically straight from the colonial playbook in terms of integration, liberalism, to get resources out, but also at the same time to paradoxically fragment communities. And I think that has some kind of contemporary issue because whilst there are a lot of tourists and travelers using connectivity, a lot of connectivity corridors within especially low middle income countries also generate more exclusion, more poverty. I think the term is a new geography of aid. So whether, rather than seeing this as a kind of either or, it's almost as if connectivity simultaneously creates fragmentation and exclusion. So I'll be interested in your comments on how that can be resolved. And my final point raises this question of identity and historical textbook question you raised at the end. And I think it's a very fair point that, nationalism itself and what we see now as populism, a lot of that is rooted in education systems and textbooks and so on. So I'm just wondering how you can manage the relationship between national identity and the regional identity that you talked about. Are these same sides of the same coin? Or do they have very, very different dynamics? And might we get to a situation, you mentioned a very interesting case study at the end regarding the hospital over the border. You get this strange liberal narrative. But on the one hand, it's great because ODA is being used to build a hospital and helping neighbors and so on. But the paradox of a liberal argument is that the other argument is that by helping people in next door country, it means we won't have a migration problem from a next door country. And liberalism can very quickly slip into forms of anti-migration and right-wing populism as well. So I'm just wondering how that can be managed in the various contexts that you've identified. Thank you.
Thank you. As there are 4 or 5 questions here, and if I miss something, please simplify them again for me again, because I think I missed something. The first one is about how Korea perceive the Mekong sub-region, right?
Yes, the region. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the precise questions again?
So when it's because I think the word Indo-Pacific was actually done or came about at a Japan-India conference in about 2006-07. And from my perspective, it was very clear. As you mentioned, this is all about east-west corridors connecting India, Japan through Southeast Asia. So it's all about sub-regions connectivity. Whereas Korea tends to see the region as a kind of block. Everything's just in one big bowl. Particularly the last administration here in Korea. And therefore, sub-regions are part of a wider region rather than the wider region being made up of the constituent parts of different sub-regions. So it might be a slight difference in approach. I think mainly because the Korean approach is very much based on the kind of regional identity and policies of the United States. It basically copies the US, which is all about maritime space and not really focused too much on the nuances and intricacies of the sub-region. So especially in ODA. So I'm just wondering whether how that balances, how that can be made to balance, particularly maybe if we talk about cooperation between Japan and Korea, particularly in the greater Mekong sub-region, as you mentioned.
Oh, surprisingly, I've been working on Japan's issues with Southeast Asia for quite some time, but I'm not expert on Korean studies. That surprised me. That observation surprised me because, in my opinion, I would say that I agree with that Japan see this sub-region as one unity. Japan seems to be using multilateral approach from Japan and Southeast Asia or sub-region. In my opinion, I would observe that Korea is different. Korea is using Korea and focusing on bilateral relations. So it would be Korea, Thailand, Korea, not as a sub-region as a whole. And our case studies, we have observed that Korea is not trying, for example, Korea is not trying to invest in Thailand that much because they are focusing on Vietnam. So from our perspective, we would say that I'm not sure, because when you asked me this question, I was distracted because I was like, hey, I do not agree with that. I think Korea see this sub-region and they try to use a bilateral approach with different country, not seeing this sub-region as a unity block, just like Japan.
I mean, I would agree. Yeah, absolutely. But the bilateral Korean ODA always has prioritized certain recipient countries in terms of bilateralism. So there seems to be this kind of tension I would observe here between Japan looking at the kind of sub-regional multilateralism, whereas I would say in a way, Korea is almost more centralized. And it's saying from Korea, we will do bilateral relations with our priority partners and maybe not so concerned about the question of sub-regional connectivity, but instead seeing the sub-region within a much wider, massive Indo-Pacific approach. But within that wider approach, we focus more on bilateralism. So there seems to be a slight different emphasis between Korea and Japan. Now, why that is, maybe historical reasons or maybe relations with the wider countries and so on. But it just struck me when you were talking about East-West and corridors and connectivity, the kind of literature I've looked at on that is very much Japan and India looking at sub-region, and you don't really get that in Korean ODA. As you say, it's much more bilateral. So thank you. That's fine. Yeah.
The second question is ASEAN and historical textbooks or something?
So ASEAN, the question of sovereignty, which you brought up in your presentation, yes. So when you talk about the tourists moving backwards and forwards, and you mentioned the case studies of people moving to Laos and Cambodia, kind of freedom of movement, which from a European perspective has a lot of European Union connotations, just moving from one country to another. Is that viable in Southeast Asia, given that one of ASEAN's primary foundations as a regional bloc is about sovereignty and territorial integrity? So is there any kind of line where politicians will say, okay, we've done enough, we've got to that point now, we don't want to do any more because that might undermine our sovereignty and territorial integrity? Is there any kind of red line where that exists?
I think in Southeast Asia it would be different. There are many theories on this one. The very basic theory would say that because this country has just created their state, the state building after the Second World War, so our sovereignty is still so new that we don't want to lose it. That would be the first theory. The second theory, I'm not going to. I would say that we are using nationalism as our political tools in every country in Southeast Asia very much. So with this one, sovereignty, particularly at the border would not be blurred and it would not be integrated and managed, what is that called? Co-managed in the near future. As we can see that even demarcation between countries in ASEAN is still undergoing. So it's not still a finished project. So with this one, as it's not finished, I think it's very impossible to manage the border. So with that one, the textbooks will still play important role because it still emphasize on how your country developed after the Second World War. I noticed that before 2015, when we tried to become ASEAN community in 2015, we came up with some projects internationally that we try to work with scholars in Southeast Asia to create regional textbooks, how to create a regional storyline, and then create a non-nationalistic and nationalistic approach, and then shift the focus of history of the sub-region or the region into something more neutral to create a sense of region. But it didn't work well in every country because of the nationalistic movement. People in this sub-region in Southeast Asia still use nationalism as their political tools during the political campaign in national interest.
Sure. Yeah, sure. And just on that, just very, very briefly, I think that's a really important point you've raised there. But the idea that this is challenging sovereignty and territorial integrity implies that sovereignty is already complete and that it's a challenging it. But I think that's a really important point, that sovereignty itself is very much an ongoing fluid process. And maybe this can be built into that to actually reinforce sovereignty over the long term. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thanks. Any other comment from the other members or guests? We would like to hear your thoughts on the subject.
May I?
Yes, go ahead, Sumo.
Okay. Thank you,
Please.
Narut. Yeah, it's wonderful. This presentation, and I learned a lot. And still, you are developing your paper, this book. Okay, you need more advice. I'm not an expert of this field, but my just impression. I think the all physical connectivity is in good progress in the what this Southeast Asia, I mean, under the name of ASEAN, I think already. When I read some the papers or some articles about the ASEAN, you have a very concrete, the all detailed plans for this, physical connectivity, right? Because the main goal of the ASEAN is you have three pillars, right? Is as a community development. One is economic community, and the second one is political security community or something, and the third one is socio-cultural community, right? So of course, ASEAN, the 10 countries, you need like this what the donation or some, ODAs from some advanced countries. You need the collaboration with these donor countries. But compared with the ASEAN, the Korean situation already, Dr. Watson mentioned Korean case. Korean is very physically, very isolated geopolitically. It means because of our political situation between South Korea and North Korea, physically, of course, we can have like this marine or ocean or this connection with Japan or some other countries. But always the government, the previous government, they try to emphasize the northern policy. Okay, northern policy means if we can be connected with the Manchuria through North Korea, we can travel to Europe, even far away to Europe. That is our hope. Okay, then our South Korean, the more like some physical communication or physical connection will be expanded. Really, that is instead, I think, but Korea is. You mentioned in your presentation what this some more like digital connection. The IT is very advanced here in Korea. So even though still we have that difficulties for this physical connection, in terms of this this technology, okay, IT technology, the Korea is connected all over the world, and our this some what this entertainment or some other the business the economic this area is in good progress, okay, in good progress, and that's why I think the Korea we have at the moment this is some political situation always the big obstacles or the stumbling block for this we'd like to more develop the connectivity with outside this kinds of develop the connectivity corridor with the northern part or even this extend our connectivity. We have this somewhat the current situation is not very favorable. That is what I want to mention in this as make some comments.
Thank you, Soho. If I may, perhaps since Narut is asking for ideas, perhaps it's interesting to look into how, even in spite of proximity, no, where it's easy to create connectivity, there's actually a huge gap, no? Historically, it could be created by differences in politics, differences in religion, differences in language. For example, we have someone from Bangladesh. I know the history of there used to be Pakistan and East Pakistan, but Pakistan insisted on a national language, Urdu, which East Pakistan refuses to embrace. So East Pakistan eventually fought for their independence. So there you have Bangladesh, no? and then you still have the issue of border disputes. India and Pakistan both claiming Kashmir. So it's very interesting that when you go to where the borders are, or where the proximity should actually create instant connectivity, there will always be issues. Like, for example, national identity. If you have a passport and whether or not there's diplomatic relations, it's not easy for, let's say, someone from Pakistan or Bangladesh to enter India unless they are granted a visa, although they speak the same language. So connectivity would have been automatic because you speak the same language, same as North and South Korea. So you may want to approach it on the different experiences of historically how people who are supposed to be neighbors, and it's easy to interconnect, no? But we create certain gaps, and there are places I've been where the gaps are not too tight. For example, I traveled to the far western region of Nepal, and suddenly they speak Hindi, and sometimes the rupee, Indian rupee currency is being used, or vehicles that are registered in India are entering Nepal. So it seems that the border is not it's loosely, it's not as tightly guarded, and there are, of course, people who trade, who speak the same language, so the connections are there, no? So that's why with modern connectivity, aside from just the physical connection, it would be interesting to understand how, was as you mentioned, it could be a vehicle for peace and understanding in the world. But as we can have seen in our history, it's not an easy thing to achieve. So I'm just throwing that in. We have Bernard. You'd like to comment, please?
Yes, I congratulate Dr. Narut, no, for a very interesting presentation. And I hope I'm still within topic because, when people hear the word connectivity, they imagine, of course, telecommunications, like what we're doing now via Zoom. So I beg your indulgence with this question because I've been dying to ask our Thai friends. A leaked telephone conversation between a prime minister and a former prime minister aggravated a border dispute. So, again, with your indulgence, what's happening between Thailand and Cambodia? It's been, I think, more complicated now than just the border shooting last May. So, thank you for your kind attention.
Okay. Would you like to comment on that, or any of our Thai friends would like to share their thoughts?
Bernard, I think
Dr. Suit. Okay.
the situation between Thailand and Cambodia, we probably need another session just to
Okay.
focus on that because it's happened quite often, and there are many things that you need to know why it come to this point.
So each situation is unique.
Yeah. Let me give some comments for Dr. Narut discussion talk. I think your upcoming book is very interesting, and when we talk about connectivity in this region, first you mentioned about GMS. I think what you should have in mind is GMS start off by ADB, which at that time the chairperson or the chairman of ADB is Japanese. So many projects of the GMS funded by Japan. But at the same time, some of the things you mentioned, like the dam project, the road project, quite a bridge project, a number of them is actually bilateral. So it's between Japan and Laos, Japan and Vietnam. So, okay, so I think you should keep that in mind when you look at this connectivity things. The other thing, East-West Economic Corridor, in my view, we still quite a long way to go, because under East-West Economic Corridor, they ask each country to, like for example, Thailand have to build the road from Thailand. Laos have to expand the road that connect to Vietnam, and the Vietnamese or Vietnam government already built a deep sea port, which supposed to connect this East-West Economic Corridor. In reality, the deep sea port in Vietnam right now, it's not working. I mean, not many people use it. In terms of connectivity, there's still lots of problems. For example, Thailand drive on one side of the road, Laos and Vietnam drive on the other side of the
Opposite
road.
side.
That's one problem to start with. The other problem is, if you want to travel, let's say from Thailand to Vietnam on East-West Economic Corridor, you can't use bus or van from Thailand to go all the way, because they had some I don't know who set the rule that you cannot use the van or the car to cross more than 2 countries. So which means Thai van can go to Laos, but cannot go further to Vietnam. You have to change. Same thing with the truck. I think truck even worse, that you go to Thai border, then you offload, get into a Laotian truck and something like that. The so-called high-speed train that connect China to connect Kunming to Vientiane right now. If you go from Vientiane to Kunming, when you reach Lao border, you have to get off the train with your baggage. Get to the immigration, check out from Laos, get back onto the train. 10 minutes later, you arrive at Chinese border, get your baggage off again, check into or go through immigration in China. So that sort of problem, it's, I think, one of the major obstacle uh, for this connectivity anyway. Okay, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Dr. Suit. Okay, Sayar. Anyone else?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Mary Jo, please. Go ahead, Mary Jo.
Yes. Hello, and thank you so much. In my studies, I was very, very interested in multilateral negotiations. So I was listening to you with great interest and noticing how you were covering the different dimensions, like that soft power, the values, beliefs, etc. I myself am thinking about this whole question of connectivity, and the topic that I hope you include also is the role of our connection through media, social media. Because if what we're experiencing in the United States is the power of social media to influence values and ideologies, like what people believe and what they're willing to accept in terms of authority, what their thoughts are around their rights. It's just ideologies, democracy versus autocracy. What do they actually see in that? Can they even see it? Because what is happening here, I would describe as the media is attracting different populations. It's affecting their belief systems. It's affecting their view of us and them within the country, and it is setting the stage for a serious clash in values. And it is because we're listening to, I'll use the term different choirs. One, any decision, any activity, and here in the United States, there have been some dramatic efforts to control the headline news. Anything that is provoked can be interpreted two completely different ways, and it's becoming more and more extreme. So it is, but that's a source of connectivity that doesn't just affect us in one nation. It's beginning to affect the whole concept of what is acceptable as we think of our neighbors. What we think of as acceptable, even though it's not contiguous. Think of the concept of control over, say, Greenland, Panama. So, but social media is setting the stage for the rationale, the logic for that, so that a population actually thinks that is logical and makes sense. There's a justification for it. There's justification through social media for extreme violence, extreme violence. And so there's something about what is happening in the 21st century with connectivity, with the power of the social media that affects not just regional concepts of what are relationships and how do we approach those relationships, but it is definitely region to region. So anyway, I just wanted to add that to your concept of how we connect. It was something that I wanted to encourage you to be more explicit about. But I love I love the paper. The book you're writing. I look forward to reading it. I'm excited about what you just explained. I was looking at your maps and thinking of, I really didn't understand all those connections with these different projects with the Belt and Road, et cetera. So I really appreciate your presentation and thank you for this.
Okay. Any other thoughts from the other? Yeah, from our guest. Yes. Amali from Bangladesh. Yes. Go ahead. Kindly unmute. We'd like to hear you. Uh, kindly double check your microphone so we could hear you. Uh, The audio is not coming out, unfortunately. Maybe you could check your jack. Yeah. It's still uh, on mute. Kindly unmute. There.
Is it
Go ahead.
working?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good.
Good,
Oh,
good.
okay. Thank you. It was very wonderful to hear all those insightful information and discussion. And I think this book is going to be really kind of eye-opening for the regional studies. And as Professor mentioned, yes, the corridors, they like they reduce all kind of logistic cost and enhance cross-border moments and especially allow landlocked countries to reach their economic goals, such as to because they can have access to regional markets and so on. But as many others mentioned, we have many challenges that we need to address in this topic also. But something I would like to mention, and I think Mary Larson, she just mentioned also like the this digital and human connectivity is something that we cannot exclude from this topic. And I think when it comes to Southeast Asia, we know there are countries with high level technological advancement, Korea, China, and all the even Malaysia and those countries. But still, we know there are people. Some group of people have left from this or these activities all the time. So, in my perspective, I think the people are the key for the connectivity. So, it's important to include them in this discussion, and so I would like to see if the book is going to address maybe this open discussion part in some part of the book, that how people see the importance role of connectivity, how do they benefit from this all sort of corridors, for example. Are we leading this discussion into the practical application, such as suggesting to develop like corridor towns where people can engage in skill training and gender equality programs and so on, so that through the corridors people also going to benefit. And lastly, also, I would like to mention the two theories that just came to my mind, because Professor asked if we have any theories in my mind. I was thinking actually about liberal institutionalism, because it's all about cooperation. It highlights about international cooperation is possible, and that allows and economic corridors definitely allow and enhance interdependence and international cooperation and cross-countries cooperation. So I think this is something that you can develop. And also, I just found out through my Google search also, maybe regionalism could be also an interesting theory to address, because they highlight the connectivity is not state driven, but also shaped by market, civil society, and informal networks. So again, that goes to what I mentioned. So people and this the civil society is the core of all of these corridors and connectivity. So that's I just wanted to mention. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Yeah, you want to respond, Narut, please. You can unmute.
No, I do
Uh,
not have particular response to anyone. Just would like to say thank you to the ideas. And I know that there are some people trying to understand the power of social media. I myself, I'm doing a research on social media and election by comparing the experience of Thailand and Indonesia, which is something not my area of expertise, right? But anyway, that's something that I'm trying to compare how social media affect election in Thailand and Indonesia. Um, so the idea when Mary mentioned about social media, regional integration and connectivity, and that is good, a very good idea. I never thought about it seriously. When I heard about this, I tried, there's some ideas pop up into my mind, like, okay, this may be something, the area or the issues that I can explore more, how social media affect connectivity. Because at the same time, nowadays, social media also disintegrate the sub-region as well. For example, you'd see as Ajahn Suvit and who was the one who asked us about this? Was that you who asked us about the conflicts between Thailand and Cambodia? And then there's something that we have problem because the movement or the sentiment of hatred or something like that also empowered by social media as well. Social media at the same time, instead of just only integrating people, it also disintegrate people at the same time.
Thank you, Narut. Yeah, Bernard, kindly unmute.
Yeah, so I was the
Oh,
one.
Bernard, yeah, Bernard, yeah.
Yeah, again, I congratulate you, Dr. Narut. Corridors and connectivity. But I must add that corridors do not automatically bring people. Corridors do not bring people automatically closer. In fact, I would like to share something because we're talking about social media and popular culture.
There's supposed to be sound. Bernard, you want to share the sound as well?
You should choose this as, the function of this sound there.
No,
Share sound as well.
I did not share the sound.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
wanted to show that in popular culture, there's such a thing as the corridor fight scene. And some of the most brutal conflicts take place in corridors. That's just one example. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay. All right.
yeah, Mary Jo, go ahead, please.
Okay.
You have your
Okay.
hand
So Bernard, honestly, on a positive note, please add the positive attraction of environmental issues, like working on river projects, shared resources. I mean, that has been a peace building attractor, and I mean, there are forces that push against that, but when you can get communities across borders, et cetera, to work on, especially water projects, but it could be any other type of similar project, that has always been a positive attractor for peace building. Communities that have mutual benefits. So it's the win-win approach, but so much is in your mindset. Are you a win-lose or highly competitive,
correct.
or actually are you distinguishing very in a sophisticated way where we collaborate, where we cooperate, where we coordinate, and where we compete? And that's something that interests me very much. It's the whole issue of what is flexibility. So, but don't forget environmental issues like climate change
Mhm.
globally, or the ozone
Correct.
layer, or right? Go down the list. But I don't want to overwhelm you. But after the corridor battle, I thought, wait a minute, I have to add something, a positive attractor.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Now, what comes to mind for me, before you can actually achieve peace and understanding, first you have to have that connection. So the connection is a start, but it's never a guarantee that you will have understanding. That's why when we teach, for example, the 7 habits, we said before, win-win. No, you have to seek to understand, then seek to be understood. So language could also be a barrier. Culture could also be a barrier. But when we truly seek to understand one another and realize that we're both affected, like the issue of environment, as Mary Jo pointed out, you realize we cannot think you or them, but we have to think us, so that we're all in this together, and that all of this separation is only imagined. No, we drew the world map, but there's actually no there should be no demarcation, because we're all the same people who live in the same planet. See? So the idea of expanding our awareness really has to start from inside out, a very clear awareness of who we are, our own identity individually. But then we should create that connection so we can begin to reach out to seek to understand the other, whether they speak a different language, a different culture. So the connection is just the start. But as they say, you have to go through phases. No, it's like forming a team. They said you start with forming, and then there's storming, and there's norming before there is performing. So any well-oiled a team. We know that you don't become a team overnight. You have to go through a process, a long process of understanding one another's difference. That's why forming is just the start. So forming the connection is the start, but then you enter a stage where there is a lot of storming. So we understand, realize that where their needs or ours might be in conflict. So it you may think of win lose and lose win, but until we begin to think win win together, and win-win as a cult together rather than they or us, no? So we move from the stage of forming, storming, norming. So norming is when things begin to settle down, and there we realize that there's no point of create or escalating the chaos in any further. Accept chaos as a necessary stage, but that chaos can actually move to quietness, to emptiness. No, so from forming, storming, norming. Once we realize, no, we norm and we realize we share so much more in common, then we can begin performing. And there's beauty when we can already understand each other and meet one another's needs, whether it's economic or political. We can coexist with people, and we don't even have to agree on everything, but we just have to agree to coexist, agree to disagree, and respect one another's differences. They say synergy is where we can celebrate the difference. In fact, what's exciting about traveling is you discover a culture entirely different from your own. So when you create tourism, and it becomes a tourism of discovery, I think it's a good direction, but it has to start somewhere. That's why forming is just the start. Creating the connection is just the beginning. But how do you manage that connection? It has to undergo certain process of forming, storming, norming before we can perform, go into the stage of performing, and really get integrated as a whole, where the whole becomes greater than just the sum of its parts. Anyway, I'm just sharing my thoughts in the process of building teams and creating consensus. Yes, Sungho, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to add some more comments, for Narus this paper. Uh, Personally, I really support your premise or assumption that this your topic, connectivity and peace. Can regional connectivity bring peace in the world? I really agree with this theme. And one good case, if I the mention one more time, the Korean Peninsula case. Okay, this is exactly the connectivity and the peace can be applied to the this Korean Peninsula. Okay, just some several years ago, we could manage it to be connected between even though small portion. We have our industrial complex in Kaesong, okay, the second largest city in North Korea, very near the DMZ, okay, the borderline. But because of the tension was rising, and North Korea exploded, demolished the office, okay, the connection. And since then, our relations between two sides, two parties, is very unfavorable. Okay, it's almost bring to the conflict. Okay, so the government, okay, the new government, since the June, I think their policy is how to restore this connectivity. Okay, this is very important, particularly in North Korea. I mentioned that South Korea is isolated. It means we have three sides, the ocean, but only one northern part is the land, but it's blocked by the North Korea. Okay, we could not move to the north because of that. And in particular, North Korea is really isolated. Even in terms of the social media, they always censorship. It's a strong censorship. Okay, censorship. They are disconnected with the outside. That is the serious problem. So Narut, maybe you can pay more. You can have some more. You should be more interested in some of the Korean Peninsula case. The connectivity. Okay, this is very important topic for we Korean people. Korean people. And one more thing, when I listened to this Dr. Sweet, his comments, still in Southeast Asia, under the umbrella of ASEAN, you still remains to be done. Last used to go further, okay, for this realize implement this connectivity compared with the European Union, okay, European Union case. I think many of you had the experience travel to Europe. You can drive your car, the many countries, very simple, okay? The passing through this, this borderline is very simple. And that's why I think the development of the community, regional, the integration or regional cooperation is very important. Kinds of consensus, the more like understanding of the regional community, I think is very important. So it's still the ASEAN is very good as a Northeast Asian member. We are envy you. You are right. We don't have any kinds of this regional, like a community or some, like integration or something. But I think your plan, I read one article, plan is very concrete, okay? And it takes time. It takes time. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Soho. Any other comments from other members or guests? Yes, please. Khan, Mikio, unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much for your presentation today. I fully agree with your presentation today, and I'd like to support your idea. And connectivity makes peace, and without that, we cannot make it. But I wonder, there's some plot in East Asia to wage war, and I, 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 I have wondered if I should talk about that tonight. But if you do not even know, that is quite important, because it is 80 years after the World War II, and we are gathering here to build a peaceful East Asia and peaceful world. And yet there are wars breaking out, and we cannot stop these wars. And there are even a new war to be waged in the Asia region. I really wonder and everything. One country, I cannot say which country, but you may understand. One country is preparing for the to wage war in several years or a few years. That country is backed with a superpower, one superpower, you may know, and I do not I cannot find quickly how to express the situation, but a very stupid government is supported by a very big power trying to prepare for a war and trying to wage war in 3 or 4 years, and they are changing the laws and regulations, and they are trying to they are trying even to change their constitution, and it is how to say that uh, really stupid, and but maybe the ghosts came out from the grave maybe after 80 years, and the stupid government and stupid politicians do not know the most important thing for politicians are not to wage war and build peace. But they have forgotten, or they did not learn about that, and they are trying to wage war, and very stupid. And so we must prepare to stop the war consciously, with consciousness, and I do not know how to do it, but my talking to you is that I feel this is the beginning of stopping the war together with you, and I don't want it to tell this talk about this in the beginning of well, just after your presentation, or in the middle of the the discussion, or so now I know we have only 5 minutes, and my 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 talk do not break your very beautiful presentation tonight. So I have told you about that. Thank you very much.
Okay, but thank you for expressing your concern. So certainly, uh, the situation around us warrants communication and understanding. So it has to be talked, and it's everybody's responsibility to build peace around us. No? Any other thoughts? Okay, if there are no further comments, I turn this back to Sung Ho.
Okay,
Sung
thank
Ho?
you.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Professor Narut Charoensri, okay, as a presenter, and today's moderator, okay, Raymond Kirieko. Okay, it's a wonderful presentation and wonderful discussion. Okay, I also thank you all of you. Okay, your contribution. Okay. I'd like to announce, our next program. Okay, before ending this session. Next 2 weeks later. Okay, every 2 weeks we hold our forum. It's the last session for this first semester. Okay, for this the first half of this year. July 10, okay, July 10. And then we have a summer break. In Korea, long summer break or summer vacation. Then September will resume, okay, our forum, and I'll announce you, I'll send you notice. And 2 weeks later, same time, and Thursday, okay, Thursday, it's very interesting, okay, a special session, okay. The youth forum, okay. The theme is leadership beyond borders. What kinds of leader does the world need today? Okay, it's very interesting because some what weeks ago, like 2 months ago, we had the presenter from UK presented under the topic of under the theme of leadership. Okay, and we had a very good discussion. And one of our regular members suggested, why don't we just invite the youth presenters, okay, youth members, young people, instead of all these senior members, because our future is the under the shoulder of our young leaders. Okay, so we'd like to invite three young the youth members from Korea. She's attending university in the United States, and one from the Philippines, another one from Philippines, and the other presenter from Indonesia. Okay, this youth forum aims to inspire young voices across Asia to reflect on the values and the visions of leadership needed for not only for their own countries but for our shared global future. Okay, so I hope you can spare time and join us the last session, okay, for the first semester, July 10th, okay, July 10th. Until then, I hope you will stay healthy and have a wonderful time. And I hope to see you 2 weeks later on our Thursday forum. Okay, everybody, thank you for staying with us, joining us, and the presenter and the moderator. Okay, so I should say, okay, bye-bye to you. Okay, everyone, take good care.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, 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 bye.
Okay,
Thanks
bye
for
bye.
joining.
감사합니다.